Welcome to the Spiritual Sweet Spot, a place where you can rejuvenate your soul. Hosted by author M.B. Mosley. This is a safe space for all.
All right, we are back. We are back. Today we are discussing limitless living, overcoming our limited beliefs so that we can manifest our desired life. Thank you all so much for joining me, my international audiences. Shout out to you. My local audiences, shout out to you. Sending love and light your way. Let's get right on into it. I'm so excited about this topic. I'm very, very, very excited about this topic as it is an ongoing educational moment for me. It is an ongoing healing moment for me. I had to come into the grips of a lot of these things, especially I want to echo in the last podcast, we're talking about manifesting, and I want to echo on taking the inspired action. Through some shadow work and mirror work on myself, I realized that I had a rough realization, I should say, that my own limited beliefs about myself were hindering some of my manifestations from coming to fruition. With that acknowledgement, I said, you know what? I need to talk about this. Because if this is what I have gone through and I am working on, perhaps this may resonate with someone else. So it's going to be, remember, beautiful souls, let's check out the mbmosley.com. I am making a great effort, y'all. Y'all should be proud of me. I'm making a great effort to upload the podcast onto the blog post on MB Mosley, MOSLEY.com. MB Mosley. We have a blog post there, so I'm doing my part to upload these podcasts for those people that like to read the material or perhaps print it off or just have written material. I'm trying. All right, 2 snaps for me. Thank you. Love and light to you, love and light to the world, love and light where you are. Hope that this podcast finds you and your family doing amazing. Let's dive right on into it. For those that are tuning in for the first time, welcome. For those that are my day one, shout out to you. For those that have been tuning in since then, thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you all so much. All right, so let's just dive right on into it. What are these limited beliefs? What are limiting beliefs? What are limited beliefs? I truly believe if we do kind of understand some of these things, then we can also better take inspired action, right? So if we understand what limited beliefs are or how the connection of limited beliefs impacts the fruition of our manifestation, then perhaps someone may have a breakthrough, right? So let's dive right onto it. So we have part one. Part one is to understand what limited beliefs are or limiting beliefs are. So limited beliefs and their impact on our lives can affect our manifestation outcomes. Limited beliefs are those things that are negative or constraining beliefs that we hold near and dear to us subconsciously. And the beliefs often limit a person's potential and hinder personal growth and create self-imposed barriers. So I wanted to formulate a list as we move through this podcast today. So here are some lists that are a few examples, but they're not definitely limited to individuals' journey, because we are all here in this earth realm uniquely going through our own life experiences. So some of these may resonate with you, and some that don't. Plug it in. Think about the moments. Think about the moments you had negative thoughts about yourself. Think about the moments where you had constraining beliefs about yourself, and pair them in and see where all that fits in terms of the limiting beliefs. So let's start off with one of the most, I think, common. Well, it resonates with me. So self-talk is dangerous talk. Self-negative. I should rephrase that. Self-negative talk can be dangerous talk. So, for example, I am not smart enough. This belief can prevent anyone from pursuing challenging opportunities or expanding the knowledge, because most times when we think that we are not intellectually smart enough, or we cannot handle that in an intellectual manner, then that can also create a ripple effect, I know, within my life, of self-sabotaging. I had to fight this one most of my life. It still lingers, if I could be honest with you. I'm still dealing with it, because when we keep moving through this conversation, you're going to also realize what's the root cause of some of these things. But for me personally, that I am not smart enough came from my childhood, came from the moments in my formative stages where I was placed in a category by society in primary school, which is the equivalence for the Western audience, which is the equivalent of junior high and middle school. So here it was, I was placed in this primary school. I had no concept of school. I had no guidance. And so therefore, I was equated with as being a lazy student. I did not want to think. And therefore, there was a class structure for people like myself, which was in the last class. That's what they called them. Within each grade, for instance, grade 5. So grade 5 would have about 3 or 4 classes. So whatever the last class looked like, that is where I was placed, all my primary school. And so therefore, we were the class that didn't go anywhere to switch up classes for any other studies. We stayed in the same class. We had the same teacher, because we were also equated on the Western level as a special education class, people with learning disabilities and so forth. So this caption was placed upon me in my formative years, and it stuck with me. So for me, it's an example of societal systems, also an example of just childhood shenanigans, how I grew up, how I was raised. For me, it was, when I look back into my childhood, some of my childhood, I realized that I was not in the mind and frame of comprehending what school was, because no one really cared about what I was doing in school. No one really checked. There was no checks and balance system, if that's such a thing. And so therefore, I remember one time I went for some time without even doing my homework forever, because until it came up somehow. But I had no concept. I did enjoy sports, but I had no concept, because sports were easier for me, like in terms of, because they were compulsory where I come from. And so therefore, you bring, unless you have a medical condition. So at the time, therefore, you just bring your sports clothes and you change after school and you go participate in a sport. So so that was a little bit easier. But let's talk about this I am not smart enough rhetoric. So how did that show up in my adult life, in my later years in life? It was always challenging, because I never appreciated the moments that I had the straight A's, the moments that I was excelling in school. It just didn't fit well in that category. So let's move down this list. Think about some of these things as we move down this list. What's that negative or constraining belief about yourself that you hold on to subconsciously? Most of these things are subconsciously. Remember, we're not sitting around. I'm not sitting around having this dialogue of looking at myself in the mirror, or just everyday life saying, I'm not smart enough. But it's just, it shows up with my performance. So the other example could be things such as I'll never find true love. Now, some of these beliefs can also lead to someone avoiding forming meaningful connections, or even settling in healthy relationships, because that negative rhetoric, once we cast that, even if it's a thought form in our mind, we cast that into the universe, it's just lingering there. This also resonates with me. I was at one point in time on the bandwagon of there are no good men out here, only because that was a necessary rhetoric to co-sign my poor choices in the people that I was allowing to be in my life, until I started moving positively. It took some time, because I'm one of those people where when I hear stories, I'm like, what's the time frame? Because I don't ever want to depict as if, oh, until I got on the positive bandwagon, like it happened overnight. No, it took time, because these are beliefs and tendencies and habits that, we are forming. New habits we're forming along the way, or old habits that we're killing off along the way. So for the longest time, when I look back on my life, when I had the I will never find true love rhetoric, well, my rhetoric was there are no good men out here rhetoric, to be honest, pairs in with the I'll never find true love. So this was the moment where I was the heaviest. I was negative. I was in a very low vibrational state. I didn't feel good about myself. And so therefore the options and choices that came my way, and I had a very low self-esteem. So the options and choices that came my way, I didn't do my due diligence in vetting them. I gravitated to them because, hey, somebody's looking at me and they want to talk to me, so here we go. And I just want to make this really foundationally clear. This is my experience, and I don't want anyone sitting out there like, oh, well, so I'm not fat shaming anyone. I'm just saying what happened in my experience, what I ended up realizing. So at that point in moment, I joined this new gym. The weight dropped off. I felt better about myself. I felt good. I was moving differently. I could tell I was walking differently. I felt more confident about myself. This took time. It wasn't an overnight process. And when I was moving differently, and now I was in a different space in terms of I was really selective about what I was eating and what was coming in my body and how I looked, then I started to attract a different caliber or different type of man. And it almost seemed like I was like, whoa, so it wasn't, and then because I'm gaining a little bit of more confidence with how I look, how clothes are fitting on me, and my selective choices, I started to pull in a different caliber of men. And the different the caliber was, the better the caliber choices were. And there came positive relationships from that. So before all of that, for my day ones that know, I had a love affair with alcohol. I'm a recovered alcoholic. So before all of that, this is post sobriety. So pre and before sobriety, I was at my heaviest. I ate everything. I didn't care about my weight. I was very low vibrational. I was a mean human being, especially when I drank and got drunk. I was the meanest alcoholic you could ever come across. I mean, these words will cut and gut you. What I'm not proud of, have made amends with my life. But at that moment, I realized when I stopped the low vibrational habit and moved and transitioned over time into a more positive habit, then everything about my aura and energy force started to pull in positive energy. So I noticed that big shift in my life, and then I stopped saying that there are no good men out there, because at this point in time now I'm feeling good, clothes are fitting good, I have a regimen, everything is just really aligning itself in an amazing way. So here comes these positive people in my life. So now I'm realizing, wow, the world is full of amazing good men. And somewhere in between there, I find my Prince Charming, get married, da da da. That's a story for another time. So as we move down these and understand what limiting beliefs are and what they look like and what they feel, I want y'all to also go into your memory bank, also go into your heart. Get the spiritual goggles on, get the spiritual shovel. We're digging deep. We're going to look at things in the spiritual, with the spiritual eyes. That's why we put those spiritual goggles on. Some of these things will be hard to point off ourselves. Some of these things will be challenging, but the work must be done. Some of these things may be things like in my life that I realized were the things that were hindering, constricting my manifestation from coming into fruition because of my languaging to myself, because of my dialogue, my internal dialogue. So let's keep on going, and while we keep going down the list, think about where you are with your list. So let's give another example, because we want to understand what limited beliefs are first in order to combat them, right? So now let's think about some rhetoric might be, I'm going to push some buttons, but let's go. I love it. Money is the root of all evil. And my question is like, show me your money, show me your evil. No, I'm just kidding. But money is the root of all evil. This is just an example. Calm down. It's an example. There's so many things I think in our childhood or growing up that we've heard that we hold on to, and we don't know why we hold on to it. One of the things, pause on that, money is the root of all evil example. One of the things that I learned how to do when I started gravitating into positivity and the space of positive thinking and mindset was erasing the language of I am broke. Erasing it. It didn't matter how my wallet looked. It didn't matter how my bank account looked. Because then I realized that was also a negative bearing and a constriction on my path and where I'm going. So I had to remove those types of examples out of that, like languaging. It's the dialogue, the internal dialogue, what we're saying about ourselves that matters. So let's talk about it. Some people would say money is the root of all evil. So therefore, this type of limited belief or limiting belief, we could pair it out with other superstitions and other things that we all just grew up saying, and we don't understand why we say them. And that was the other thing. I grew up in my childhood, like with the whole part where, you know, and I understand everyone's home's not the same and life is not perfect. But I remember always being at the register as a child, and then what I would be hurled with was, I don't have any money. I don't have any money. I don't have any money. And listen, I'm not here to castigate people, but rather show grace and understand now that I'm an adult. So it was also another thing that I had to curate in my life, my language towards money and financial situations. Whether there is enough resources for what I need or not, is understanding that I flow in the abundance of the wealth that I'm here promised for and in. It's my birthright. Wealth is my birthright. Whether or not I got $1 in my wallet. And I realized how much that changes the trajectory of my life. And once again, this is not an overnight process. It's life. It's a life process. It's a journey. When I tell you, you're listening to the most negative, the most negative person of all negative people, the most low vibrational being you've ever met, the reformed low vibrational being, then please believe it. I had no idea. My negative, constraining internal dialogue was crucial. And I mean, it was brutal. So it took time. It took a lot of time, but everything can be accomplished with time, consistency, and persistence. So as we talk about money is the root of all evil, it's an example. Think of other beliefs around that. Some of these beliefs, especially around money or finances, can limit our financial success and prevent us from pursuing wealth or financial stability. because of our association to this money is a example. To this money is a root of all evil. You can take it as a negative connotation, and therefore there's negative outcomes, because some people will hold on to that and hold in the realms of, well, we're not supposed to have money, because if you have a lot of money, it's the root of all evil. I'm like, honey, give me all the money. Money is resources. Money is freedom. And I think it's when we change the dialogue and see the benefits of what it is. And when I think back on this money is the root of all evil statement, I think, because listen, I do have a past love for true crime. I'm not going to sit up here and lie. I do. But I have watched some true crime, and it's the motives. It's the agendas behind it, right? So I think the minute that we start to form healthy relationships with our dialogue, healthy speaking points, positive speaking points, then we can also change how we feel and view money. The way I view money today is that it is a great resource. I equate money to freedom. I equate money to resource. I equate money to having the ability, because my number one love language is giving. So I equate money to having the freedom to be able to do the generous contributions that I like and desire to do. I used to be in the realm where I was like especially now towards holiday seasons and so forth, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had the money. I would, go, like Thanksgiving, I would go feed the homeless or all this other stuff. But now you realize, when you have changed your dialogue and that you can possess those resources, for me it feels good, because that's one of my main love languages. It's like, now I can also do what I love to do. So as we go down, we're getting to understand this part one. We're understanding what are limited beliefs. So another part would be, I am not artistic. So if you're listening in, perhaps if you are a talented musician, you self-taught yourself, but perhaps somewhere along the line there is this limiting belief where maybe you compare yourself to the top guitarists out here in the world, and you feel you're very, it close, and that is the pinnacle of musician success or something. Then we have to look into that, right? I know for myself, as a writer, the childhood limiting beliefs I was born into, the systems in the society, the foundational environment that I was birthed into, it was plagued and caked with limiting beliefs. And I want us to also understand that limiting beliefs is just not subconscious internal dialogue, subconscious internal negative dialogue that we have about ourselves. But I realize sometimes systems, society, your environment, for me the environment played a big part. And when I say environment, I am talking about it all. Your foundational environment, your home life, your cousins, your aunties, your uncles, your grandmothers, all of this sometimes has formed some of us to have these subconscious negative limiting beliefs about ourselves. I know there are some people out here that have been compared to the less than desirables of their family members, right? Going, hey, you just came into this earth realm. You're like, listen, I'm just trying to do me. And then you're a tender 8-year-old, 10-year-old, and somebody in your family past Thanksgiving is talking about you look just like your uncle. You gonna be like your uncle too. Like, wait a minute, my uncle is like doing life in prison for murdering 600 people. You see what I'm saying? Like, don't compare me to that. And listen, I rebuke that and I denounce that. Do not speak over into my life any negativity. And it's very important every now and then to do a cleansing of what has been said to you. Even in adulthood, I still do it. Because as I live and breathe and move within my soul being, hey, we work in workspaces. We know we all are not going to like each other, vice versa. So it could be negative dialogue about you, misconstrued negative dialogue being hurled into the universe about you that is not right about you at all. So I always, every time and every moment I always send back the negative rhetoric back to sender, whoever it is that has negative intentions, negative words towards me, that they return right back to that sender. I don't want that. I don't want that. I'm trying to speak positive over my life. So every now and then we gotta denounce, we gotta rebuke, we gotta declare that we don't want that. And sometimes people have the, I wanted to say the audacity, but I also have grace to keep understanding that sometimes people do not really understand or know any better. It's not an excuse or justification, and I'm not gaslighting, but it's in those moments too you can rebuke and denounce it in front of their faces. I've had odd, weird family members say, you're gonna just be like, you're gonna be just like so and so. No, I'm not. No, ma'am. Or sometimes the bar is set up so high in your life by people in your life, and that it starts to feel like everything you're trying to do because you want to do what's good for you is failing because maybe they were right. Maybe I should have gone to law school like everyone in the family. Perhaps I should have became a medical doctor like my mom, my dad, the family line, or whatever expectations that human beings put upon our lives. Listen, pause that. Live your life. Live your life unapologetically you. Promise you. That's the best way you can do it. So what I was saying is, sometimes when people do not know better and they say things to us in our faces, we tell them, like, listen, I don't receive that. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. So the artistic part, perhaps it's skills and talents you have. Perhaps you are an amazing singer. Perhaps you're an amazing writer. Perhaps you write amazing poems. Perhaps you have a skill set that will harvest and bring in the financial resources out here somewhere. But perhaps that limiting belief is constraining you from reaching your maximum potential and manifesting your biggest concert ever, manifesting your biggest publishing deal ever, manifesting your biggest acting role ever, manifesting your biggest social media break, whatever that looks like. These are subconscious negative limiting beliefs we place in ourselves, and we're getting to the nooks and cranny to see what's really stemming. What's the root cause of these? I think also understanding the root cause can also help us. So let's keep on moving. As we looked at part one, understanding what limited beliefs are, I hope that you all have kind of plugged in some of the things that you feel that you say about yourself, that you know that perhaps I need to really make amends with this and move past this and, you know, see myself in a better light, see myself in a more positive light, perhaps even just affirm yourself in a more positive life. These are just a few examples, like I said, and these are per case basis, but limited beliefs can take various forms, and don't ever forget that, and affect different aspects of our lives. And I truly believe when we overcome these beliefs, then we can also work on some of the challenges. But it's a very essential step towards our personal development and achieving our goals and or attaining our manifestation. All right, so part two will be on the next podcast episode. Join the next podcast episode. We have gone over part one. You all were doing the work. We are understanding what limited beliefs are. It's important for us to understand what these limited beliefs are so that we can really address the limited beliefs as it pertains, or the limiting beliefs as it pertains to the negative and constraining beliefs that we hold upon ourselves. Understanding you all that these typically are subconscious, embedded in our psyche from whatever it is that we have undergone and have experienced in life. So sometimes it's not necessarily in our face limiting beliefs, because I feel like if it was so obvious in our face, we would be out here just manifesting away, right? I know I would be. But I realized that it was the dialogue, the internal dialogue, the subconscious embedding that had been caked within me. These are what I call seeds that were placed within my soul and my heart from such a young age, carried on to the other. I feel like it's always a ripple effect. So when I had this negative internal subconscious dialogue about myself, for example, not feeling like I'm smart enough, it has showed up in my workspaces. Most times where people could see perhaps how skilled I am, I don't see it because I've always had that, I don't, someone else does it better than I do, because I've had it that I've been always in that little last class and everyone else is better, smarter, and even it showed up in my writing. I could write the heck up out of a manuscript. The manuscripts are just books before they get published and get all fine-tuned. But I would see that I would sabotage myself probably. It'll be the last chapter, y'all. Probably the last 2 pages or so. And then here I am just sabotaging it like, well, nobody's going to read it because, and all kinds of things just rail in my mind. So it is one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about it is because I did see and I noticed how my life has changed over the years when I gravitate into addressing what these limiting beliefs are and how they're showing up in my life. I love you all so much. Join me on the next podcast. We are talking about part 2. You do not want to miss part 2. You do not want to miss part 2. Part 2 is recognizing our own limited beliefs. We are plucking away. We are plucking away love and light to you. Love you all so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to check out mbmosley.com. We got journals there. It's links that will lead you to purchasing any journal, not any journal, but the journals that we have. And if you're interested in purchasing those journals, check out mbmosley.com. Love you so much. Love and light to you.